Welcome to Dr. CM Edcast, your go-to resource for medical learning. Through discussions, case studies, tutorials, and debates, we help you learn, grow, serve.
Today, we're diving into one of the most incredible pieces of machinery in the entire human body, the stomach. And trust me, it's so much more than just a bag that holds your food. It's a full-blown, high-tech chemical processing plant, and we're about to pop the hood and see exactly how this thing works. So right off the bat, here's the central puzzle that we're going to solve. Your stomach is literally brewing an acid so powerful it could dissolve nails. The big question is, how in the world does it wield that kind of chemical power without just eating itself from the inside out? Let's get into it. Here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll do a flyover, a look at the stomach's overall design. Then we're going to zoom way in, right down to the microscopic factory floor where the chemicals are made. After that, we'll check out the control room that runs the whole operation. And finally, we'll see how it all comes together in perfect sync when you eat a meal. Okay, let's start with the blueprint. To really understand how the stomach does its job, you have to appreciate the way it's built. Its form is perfectly matched to its function. So you're looking at this J-shaped muscular pouch. Food drops in through the top part, called the cardia. The fundus is that upper dome that often holds a bit of gas. The main central part where all the action happens is the corpus, or the body. And then it all funnels down into the pyloric antrum before heading out to the small intestine. Each zone has a very specific role to play. Now, this is not a passive bag, no way. It is wrapped in 3 distinct, powerful layers of muscle, and they all run in different directions. This setup allows the stomach to twist, squeeze, and churn your food like a biological cement mixer. It's all about mechanically breaking stuff down and mixing it into this thick, acidic paste called chyme. And if you could zoom right in on the inner wall of the stomach, you'd see it's not smooth at all. It's covered in millions of tiny little openings called gastric pits. And these are the doorways. They lead down into the gastric glands. And that is where the real chemical magic happens. So, let's head down into those glands. We're leaving the big picture anatomy behind, and we're getting right down to the cellular level to meet the tiny workers that run this incredible chemical factory. And what does this factory produce? Gastric juice. And get this, your stomach brews up to 2.5 liters of this stuff every single day. We're talking about a potent cocktail made of super strong acid, powerful enzymes, and, crucially, some very special protective mucus. So meet the crew. You've got your parietal cells. These are the acid makers. Then you have chief cells, which produce a really important enzyme precursor. The mucus cells are the defense team, pumping out that protective slime. And the G cells act like foremen, releasing a hormone that helps manage the whole operation. Just stop and think about that for a second. It's absolutely wild. Your blood is at a perfectly neutral pH, and yet just a few millimeters away, on the other side of a cell wall, these tiny parietal cells are pumping out an acid that is literally 3 million times more concentrated. How on earth is that even possible? Well, the way it works is just an elegant piece of biological engineering. I know this diagram looks a little intimidating, but the whole process can really be boiled down to 3 key steps. Okay, so first, inside the cell, it uses basic ingredients like water and carbon dioxide to make hydrogen ions, which are really just protons. Then, and this is the genius part, a specialized molecular machine, a proton pump, uses a ton of energy to physically shove those protons out of the cell and into the stomach. Finally, chloride ions just kind of follow along for the ride. And only once they're both outside the cell do they combine to become hydrochloric acid. The cell never actually has the dangerous acid inside of it. And the result of all that incredible work? An environment with a pH of around 1. I mean, this is an intensely harsh, acidic world, which is just perfect for obliterating any bacteria or other nasty pathogens you might have accidentally swallowed with your food. It's your body's first line of chemical defense. But killing germs isn't even the acid's main gig. Its most critical role is to set the stage for digestion. Remember those chief cells making pepsinogen? Well, that enzyme is shipped in an inactive, safe form. The intense acid from the HCl basically flips a switch, changing its shape and activating it into its final form, pepsin. And pepsin is an absolute beast when it comes to chopping up proteins. So this brings us full circle, right back to our original question. How does the stomach survive this? And the answer is this amazing, thick, gooey layer of mucus. This isn't just any old slime. It's packed with bicarbonate that neutralizes the acid right at the surface of your stomach lining. So you have a safe, neutral pH of 7 touching your cells, while just millimeters away, it's a pH 1 acid bath. Incredible. All right, so we've established that the stomach is a powerful and, frankly, dangerous factory. You can't just let a factory like this run at full blast all the time, right? You need a really sophisticated control room to manage production, to know when to fire things up, and just as important, when to shut things down. The whole system is a delicate balancing act between go signals and stop signals. On the go side, you have things like nerve signals from the brain and hormones like gastrin that tell the cells to get to work. But on the other side, you have the brakes. The acid itself is a great example. If the pH drops too low, that very acidity triggers a shutdown signal. Other hormones, like somatostatin, are also powerful off switches. And what's so cool about this diagram is it shows the complexity, the layers of this control network. It's not just one thing telling another what to do. Check it out. The main nerve can talk directly to the acid-making cell, but it can also talk to the hormone-releasing cell, which then sends a second signal to the acid maker. It's a system with built-in redundancies to make sure the message gets through loud and clear. Okay, time to zoom back out and put all the pieces together. The muscles, the cells, the hormones, none of this happens randomly. It all works together in 3 perfectly timed, beautifully choreographed phases that are all centered around a single meal. We can break it down into 3 main acts. First, there's the cephalic phase. That's the part that happens in your head. Then comes the gastric phase, when the action is actually in the stomach. And finally, the intestinal phase, which, you guessed it, is controlled by the intestines. This here is basically the master plan. You can see there's this constant chatter happening between your brain, your stomach, and your gut, all to make sure digestion happens efficiently. So let's look at what kicks off each of these phases. The cephalic phase is all about anticipation. Just thinking about a juicy burger or smelling it cook makes your mouth water, right? Well, that same signal travels down a nerve to your stomach and tells it, hey, get ready, food's coming. Then, the gastric phase is the main event. When food actually hits your stomach, the physical stretching and the presence of proteins trigger the biggest surge of acid. Finally, as that acidic slush starts moving into the small intestine, the intestinal phase kicks in. The intestine sends signals back to the stomach saying, whoa, buddy, slow down, let me process what you've sent before you send any more. So when you really step back and look at the whole picture, the powerful muscles, that incredible cellular acid factory, the ingenious proton pumps, that bulletproof mucus shield, and this complex web of neural and hormonal controls, it's just undeniable. The stomach isn't just a pouch. It is a self-regulating, high-efficiency, fully autonomous masterpiece of engineering. And the most amazing part is that all of this happens on complete autopilot. You never once have to think about it. But that does lead to a final, pretty important question. This whole system depends on perfect balance. What happens when the control room gets it wrong? When the autopilot glitches, the acid overwhelms the defenses, or the timing gets all messed up? Well, that's when you run into problems we're all familiar with. Things like heartburn, acid reflux, and even ulcers.